Good morning, good afternoon or good evening, wherever you are on the planet. Brian Walters here to do a bit of training on hosting. Can you all hear me? Hi Timothy, Cindy, Art, Dee. See you still around, Dee, just like me. Don, Mike. How's everyone? Well, I won't go into where you're all coming from or where you all live because it takes a little time, and we really do only have an hour, and we just get there. So today we're going to talk about hosting and its difficulties. We're going to look to see what happens in the name servers and IP addresses. We're going to look a little bit at SSL certificates and why they're important, although not for our hosting at this point. We're going to look at logging into domains and the importance of keeping usernames and passwords. We're going to set up WordPress in a domain, and we're going to set up WordPress in a friendly domain, and we're going to in a subdomain, and we're going to make WordPress a bit more friendly to start with, to make it a bit more easy to set up. Now we just go to the setup stage. We don't go to configuring using any of the tools or things you can put into WordPress. We're just really doing it at the basic level, and if you get this right, you'll be able to build many. In fact, the other day I built one. Tell you how good this stuff is. I built a website for a friend of my wife's. Haven't charged her yet. She hasn't given me any money yet, but nonetheless, I started at about 11 o'clock in the morning, went for about an hour, had lunch, started back again at 1 o'clock, finished everything by 4 o'clock, including a posting to a few blogs that I have on my list. About 5-6 blogs maybe, and I posted to a friend of mine's blog who's just starting a new service. And by the time I'd finished doing all this, the blog had been, under the keyword I chose, the blog had been noticed, and already it was on the first page of my keyword. Shortly after that, another one appeared, and the next day, within less than 24 hours, the blog site that I'd made had listed on page 1 for this person, and she has about 4 listings now on page 1. So it's pretty powerful stuff if you do it in the right way to start with. So that's just to let you know how powerful this stuff can be. The power of using all this, really only the stuff I've learned in Veritech, apart from a bit of keyword research and a few articles and things like that. But yeah, it's pretty good. So hang about, we'll go right way through it. I compare domain hunting for like a car. You know, you've got to go to all these places to get your car serviced, and likewise for domains, you've got to go to all over the place to get this thing set up. It makes life a little difficult. But if you've bought a car, you buy tyres for it at a different spot, you get it serviced at a different spot, you get it washed at a different spot, you register it at a different spot, you have to insure it at a different spot, you have to buy gas or petrol for it in a different spot. So the whole wide world of business competition, no one company can be all things to all people. In fact, my hosting is spread over about 3 or 4 different registrars and a couple of domains, 3 or 4 domain hosting accounts. So it doesn't pay to keep everything into one spot, if you have a choice, that is. So the first thing we need to do is sign up for a hosting company. In this case we're talking about Veritech, but there's also some really good ones around like HostGator, Bluehost, and I'm sure if you've been in the industry 8 years like I have, you'll know you've got your own pets and you know what's good and what's not good. The domain registrars are next. You need to register a domain with companies like GoDaddy, or if you're in Australia like me, something like cheapdomains.com.au, or if you're in the US, Namecheap's a pretty good one. A lot of people tell me that Namecheap's the best one they've used. I've never used GoDaddy, but I've used the other two and others as well. If you've been around the traps as long as I have, you'll certainly know who the good hosting companies are, because I've been with a few duds. So currently I'm with Yahoo, Veritech and HostGator. So, but I've signed up with companies that don't even respond to help desk calls, and cPanel doesn't work properly. And of course I gave their due. I gave them time to fix it, and wasn't done. So I simply swap, and that's a good best part of competition, to be able to swap around and see what's available. And as you get onto the internet now that you've got your domain, you need to protect yourself. And I don't have any sway in any of these companies that I use, but I do use Norton Internet Security. I know Tom uses ZoneAlarm. I've used ZoneAlarm in the past as well. PC Tools Spyware, I use that one and have that one active on my desktop all the time. These are all paid services. I think Norton Security is about $100 a year, or maybe less than that. And PC Tools is $30 or $40, and System Mechanic is probably about the same, although they do have specials from time to time. You can renew for about $14, so there is really no excuse for not protecting yourself, because once you get your email posted on the domain, then people send out the little spiders to spam you, and spamming you, they do send you corrupted files to get your username and password, keyloggers and things like that, so they can really get in and have a look. So if you're going down this path, you've got to protect yourself. It's not like if you're a browser or of the internet. If you're just looking for data on the internet or information on the internet, this is something completely different. Now you're part of the action. And you need to control the stuff coming to you. So there's something like, you go to cheapdomains.com.au, and it defaults to the .com.au site for registration in Australia. There's a lookalike there for Namecheap, and again it asks you for a domain name to enter in there. So you need to register a domain name. It's not a good idea to change domain registrars if you can avoid it, because this can often upset your PR ranking and your position. I think that's because the registrars have different IP ranges as well, and you put your IP address into a new range, it may affect your ranking. You can also buy good used domains too for maybe $50, $60, maybe $10, $15. It really depends, and some of those have got a PR ranking of 5. You really have to know the history of these things, because some of them can be some of the domains can be really off screen, and you choose them and host there, and you start getting all this hate mail and things. So you just got to be careful with that. So that's primarily why I go for new domains and then build them up over time. And if you do your keywords, your title and your content, and you do your postings along the keywords you've selected, you can really get them listed, if there's not too much competition around, pretty quickly. And I mean not a lot of competition. If there's less than 500,000 competing pages, you got a good chance of getting them listed within 2 or 3 months on page 1. If they've only got 1,100 pages competition on that keyword, then you can often get them listed within a couple of days, which I explained to you right at the beginning. It's possible. So you've registered, or you're going in to register, and before you've already set up your hosting account by this time. It's better to set your hosting account up before you go for your domain registration. The SSL certificate, which Veritech doesn't have at the moment, but they're working on it, is what they call a secure socket layer. It's one of the layers in the IP tree, and there's 7 layers in the IP tree, and one of the most secure ones is the SSL certificate, and it's got thousands and thousands of ports you can actually put your domain to, which are all hidden from people that want to get into your site and so on. So certainly if you've got a shop front, or you're using online sales, or you're using a gateway such as PayPal, or a bank gateway, a payment gateway, then probably the hosting company will insist that you get an SSL certificate, and it will cost you a little extra, and they usually set it up. And the way I've done it in the past is you send a support ticket and they set it up, and I've only ever had it set to the root domain, not to any subdomains or any shared domains like the hosting on Veritech. And if you want to find out whether your site is secure, you simply type in HTTPS for secure, :// then your domain name, and if you can see it with that pointer at the start, then it's secure. If you can't see it, then you don't have a secure certificate. Now that you have a domain name, you log in to your to the register, and you've got a username and password, so you need to store these, and I usually use Excel and a thumb drive. Put them on a thumb drive, and then I can, if I go away on holidays, I can take that with me. And if somebody happens to pinch my PC or break in my house, heaven forbid, then they've got the they don't have access to usernames and passwords, and hopefully there's no specific data on there that hasn't been backed up. And again, I use like Seagate drives. I use a USB style 1 terabyte or 2 terabyte USB drive, and they have some backup software included in them. It's a very nice setup, and you can back up pretty much everything twice if you want to do, if you've got a big drive, and that's very, very important. Once you go into your domain name there, you double click on this part here, and it'll take you to your site setup where your pointers of your name service are. So if you go into your hosting, which as I said, you should have already set up, you'll see that it's got a IP address on here, and in this case the Veritech one is a shared address. Sometimes you have to supply an IP address to the registrar, and sometimes you don't. If you don't, then this is the stuff you need to put into your DNS servers, your own DNS servers. So you want ns1.ewave.net and ns2.ewave.net. You can't use NS3, NS4, any of these down here. They're the two primary ones that are required. These two here are the primary ones that are required to point to the domain hosting, the Veritech domain hosting. If you need a second IP address, and sometimes you do this, you have to send out a ticket to a hosting company to get the NS2 IP address. But you don't normally have to do that, but you can. On the cPanel of your account, you'll see a thing there that says collapse stats, or if you click that, it'll just make that screen disappear. If you click it again, it'll make it reappear. And all that does is giving you the release dates of all the versions and all your stuff you need. Now, from time to time, the hosting company will update this. Don't be too concerned about that. As they find holes or security holes in their componentry, they will update it pretty quickly. They're really, really good on this. Pretty much no matter what hosting company you go to, there's always a chance that somebody can get in, and hopefully not, but so it's essential that the hosting company has good security with their stuff as well. And if you log on to PayPal or anything like that, you'll see that it's you can log on to PayPal with HTTP, but as soon as you go into transactions, it takes you to their secure site, which is HTTPS. I don't know whether you've noticed that, but that's what you get. We will have a Q&A at the end, but if you want to ask a question, type it in the box and we might need to address it when we go. Now that you've selected your hosting company and they've sent you a link, and the link will look something like that, you don't need a domain name to be part of the hosting company, you just have to pay them. The domain can be added later. So your domain is now registered with one of these or others, and you're able now to put up your data. Now, here we go to something really important. You've written down your URL for your hosting company and for your registrar. You've written down, at this stage, we've probably got 2 usernames, 2 passwords perhaps, or you could perhaps use the same one. But whatever it is, you've got to write these down and store them. And as I said, I use a thumb drive and usually use Excel. Russ Falls had a bit of a problem the other day. He forgotten his password, and like once you get that far and you forget your password, and your registrar or your hosting company can't dig it out, then you really got to, you have no choice. You've really got to start again. So it'll happen to you, and something or other you'll have to redo what you've already done. It's taken you hours and hours, and because you lost power on your computer or something happened, you'll have to do it again. So good luck. So when we log into the front end of the hosting, you have to log in link, something like that. You notice it's a secure host, and because they don't have a certificate, I use Internet Explorer. I do use Firefox occasionally for special sites, and I have not used Chrome at this point. You'll get a site like this, continue with your website, and it's got in brackets there, not recommended. We'll simply click on that and it'll take you to the cPanel login screen. The cPanel login screen allows you to put in your username there, which you get from Veritech, of course, and your Veritech password. If you've got a password, you can't change your username on the cPanel screen, but you can change your password, and you can do that if you wish. So once you've logged in, you'll be taken to the cPanel. And there's 3 areas that we're looking at our cPanel. We're looking at, and there are other areas there, but the 3 we're focusing on today is the domain area, where you add your domain and subdomains, your file area, and this one here, your file manager, you're going to get very friendly with over the years, because it's going to be often your lifeblood into where things are on your domain, where links are put, or where folders are put, or where data is put. So you'll need to get to use this, get in and practice using it, because there's a whole lot of options in there. There's refreshing, there's going forward and going backwards, there's a whole lot of stuff. So I suggest once you've got a host, cPanel host, go in and use that and have a look where things are. And we'll be using that particular one today. There is a backup wizard there, and what I also suggest you do is back up your domain when you're finished, and it'll give you a tar or a GZ type extension, because it's a Unix type backup. Once you've done the backup, you can use your FTP to download it to your site, and if you have to upload it again, or you have to shift to a different domain, you can do this. Now, I've never put the backup back up and then unloaded it or unzipped it to see what happens. I sort of unzip it on my PC using something like JZip or WinZip. JZip's free. WinZip is free for a little while, but then you have to buy it. I tend to unzip it, find out where the data is that I want, fix it, and then upload it again. Or particularly if you want to shift your domain registry to somewhere else, you'll have to probably fix that up too. And the last one we're looking at is Fantastico, which is your WordPress and other software installation wizards. The first thing we need to do is add a domain, so you simply launch the add-on, double click on add domains here, and throughout the throughout the cPanel is these little video tutorials. They don't have any sound, they just have a video. So look at those and see what they do. Most of them only go for 30 seconds. Hold on a minute, I've got to turn my Skype off. Sorry about that. Most of them only go for 30 seconds, but they're well worth to have a look at just to get an idea of the principles involved here. Okay, so the next thing we need to do, having brought up the Create Home domain, there's a little bit of notice in here. This has got your username as well. You really need to check to make sure that I don't know how you would do it, but I guess it's possible to log into someone else's domain, so you need to make sure that this little username appears next to the home icon there to signify that you're on the right domain. Now, to add a domain, you simply type in a domain in here and click the tick box, and that'll validate that you've got the correct name. It doesn't have to be a domain that you have. It can be anything that ends in .com, .net, and any other extensions. It'll think it's valid, or tell you that it's valid. It won't tell you whether you own it or not. It'll tell it whether it's written down correctly or typed in correctly. After you click that tick box, it'll then fill up these to the subdomain box and the root domain or the document root folder. I don't suggest you change any of those. Just leave them as they are, because the less you change and the more you use the wizards and takes you straight through, the less drama you're going to be encountering. Again, you'll need a password here, and it can be, if you just use one or two passwords in your life, well, you can put it here and here, but if you use something different, you need again to write it down, put it on your Excel spreadsheet and save it onto some sort of thumb drive. It'll tell you whether your password is strong or not strong. It's up to you whether you generate your own. In some cases I've generated your own, and it's about 98% strength. So, but you've really then got to write that down, because it's got backslash and squiggle wits in it and other little pretty characters. So you can use that if you wish. As long as you save it, you're right to go. So if you've set up your domain correctly, it should give you a listing down the bottom here. Now at the same time, or a bit later, I've gone in and set up a subdomain to one of my domains here, and it's listed it down the bottom, Train Me, and that was interesting research I did on that domain name. Haven't set anything up on it yet, but it's a good keyword as well. So any of your subdomains you set up, you really should do a bit of keyword research. And to my surprise, the Train-Me gets about 6 hits a day on that, just that keyword. So I thought that was pretty good. Whereas the Train Space Me site gets a lot more than that as well. And you'll see here it goes into the public HTML folder. It doesn't look like a subdomain there, but it is actually a subdomain. It tells you here that it is, but in the public HTML, which we'll look at in a moment on the cPanel, it tells you there's just a folder. It also lists whether you've redirected or not. Now, some people use the redirection here to redirect the domain to somewhere else. The very first step, this allows them then to build up the domain content and go through all the mistakes and postings and changes and so on while they're building up the pages, and then finally when they've built the domain, they turn the redirection off so the domain itself is held. I personally don't use it like that. I have used manage redirection, but I don't normally use it. And then of course you can click here and remove the domain, but it won't remove the things that matter in your domain if you've set up WordPress. It'll delete WordPress, but WordPress will still know that it's hanging about and it has been installed, so there's a few other things you need to do to actually remove WordPress, including changing the rights of some folders and files, and it's a bit of a pain in the neck. So you've got to make sure you check and make sure everything's in place. Art Williams will attest to that, things got a bit out of skewy with his domain and had to be adjusted a little bit. So you just need to be careful. Don't rush this stuff. Particularly if you're new, if you know what you're doing, well, that's fine. But because you can always undo what you've done. And to install a subdomain, you would click on the subdomain button. Whereas if you want to install a main domain, you click on that. So if you've got 3 or 4 domains to put on and 30 or 40 subdomains, you can do it like that as well. Although how you control that sort of amount, I don't know, but that's up to you guys. So now we're going into File Manager and just make sure that things are as they should be. We haven't looked at our domain yet, all we've done is set it up. So we double click on File Manager, it takes you to the File Manager directory settings or screen. Down the bottom here, the document root for this domain, I could have gone to that if I want, but I just want to go to the home directory and have a look and see what's happened. Make sure that we're on the right, we're still on the right path. So we go to our cPanel and then our File Manager, and on the left you'll see like a DOS tree or I'm showing my age, aren't I? A Windows tree of what's actually on the server, on your part of the server. So you'll see something like a public HTML folder. You should see one of the things I did skip over was this little button here, Show Hidden Files. And if you click that button there and it's got a tick in it, then you'll see things like HTTP pass WDS, you'll see your trash folder, you'll see who's accessing your site, and you'll see this little etc thing down here. If you turn that off, you won't see those. It's not often necessary to go into any of these folders. Sometimes the password folder needs to be manipulated, particularly you have an SSL certificate. It may need some entries in there that, again, the hosting company would put in there for you to indicate you've got a secure domain there. But again, it's not normally something you have to worry about, and it's beyond the scope of this training here. So I want you to then look at your public folder and have a look and see what's there. So let's go and have a look at that. So you just simply click on the plus sign next to it and it'll expand. Yes, Art, you weren't. There's nothing wrong in there. It was actually in the Fantastico folder, and you didn't have it in your right tree. You had something in this area actually, and that's how you got it there. I don't know, but it was in the secure area or the hidden area normally. So that caused a bit of a problem. So at the moment we've set up a folder that's just a folder, and you'll see it just as a domain name followed by and underneath it CGI bin. And if you go to the domain URL in either IE8 or Firefox or something like that, all you'll see is an index / a CGI bin folder and some Apache stuff there that's on the next line. And if you see that without any data, without any WordPress, then you know you've succeeded in getting your domain registered and it's being seen by the hosting company. And they say it could take 72 hours, or normally I've noticed that it comes up pretty well instantly, within 2 or 3 minutes of you registering it, it's there. Once you've added your domain, it's actually there. Now, we're going to now look at WordPress 3. We'll come back to the subdomain in a moment, but we'll look at the tree structure of that. But clearly WordPress 3 has got over 100 million installs now, so they must be doing something right. And you can use it to make a proper website, which we're doing today. You can make a forum, which I have done with using the forum stuff that's in Veritech, or you can use it for a blog, which again I've used Veritech and non-Veritech type stuff. It's secure. It's easy to add new pages. It's easy to add posts. You can use things like FeedSnap. You've got pages where you can have a form. and just you put in your email address and it'll send you anybody that fills out the form, much the same way as the Veritech one's done. But if you don't want to use Veritech for Verimail, then you can simply use the WordPress form. So I would suggest you add the FeedSnap plugin. You can also add the all-in-one SEO pack. That's in the SEO section, but I suggest you do that because this will enable you to put in your title, your meta tag description, and your keywords. That'll describe completely the content that you've got on that page. And the SEO pack can be configured for each page, so it really makes it easy. There's no, I don't know whether you've done any HTML websites in the past, but sometimes that can be a pain to set up because you may have left it out or something, or it may be incorrect in some way. But using the SEO all-in-one pack, it's really easy to set that up. But again, make sure your domain is set up correctly, which we've done before. And you need to check your public folder to make sure that it's there. Don't rush this stuff, because if you make a mistake, it can be a bit of work to uninstall it. Now we need to install WordPress 3. We double-click on the Deluxe, Fantastico Deluxe down here, and the next few slides will take you through the procedure to set up WordPress 3. And then finally we make it a bit more user-friendly for you to use. So when you open the Fantastico screen, it'll have a Fantastico home button ticked up the top here. You need to select the WordPress button down here. Once you've selected the WordPress button, the screen will refresh, and here's half the screen that you'll see. So you simply go to New Installation of WordPress down here and click. There are other things like Tuprel and a few other things that you can put in there. But some of those I've used, but today we're just concentrating on WordPress. This is whatever's in that string down there in this tree, very powerful stuff. If you look on the internet and you do some browsing, you'll see people have used these things to set up content management, like this site here, Tuprel and so on. It's really good for that sort of thing. Content management is setting up your website with, again, it's a bit similar to, I guess, WordPress, but Tuprel is when you set up pages and so on. You just want to add content very quickly, and it'll allow you to do that. Add content to one screen, hit the post button, and it'll go and put it in for you. Very good. So again, here you see a list box down here, and the list box you need to select to the correct domain that you want to install your WordPress on. In the WordPress 1 and 2, I used to have this little box here, install in directory, and you use that to putting in subdomains. I notice that's changed now in WordPress 3. So actually install a domain, when you install your subdomain, you do it at this point. But we'll come to that when we get there. So we need to put in administrator username. Now it can be like most people simply use admin in there. Whatever you use, you need to write it down. And of course the password that you're using for your admin site, again, you need to write that down. So you need to pay attention to the detail here, because if you select the incorrect domain and you start putting WordPress here, there and everywhere, and there are other things in that box, in that list box there, that you can select. So you've got to make sure that you've selected the right one. And so really pay attention to this, because when you get a few subdomains and a few domains and you're putting them all into one place, it's quite easy to say, oh yeah, that's right, click, oops, a daisy, where's my site gone? So you've actually, well, won't allow you to overwrite WordPress in your site, because it'll say that it's already installed. So in the early day, in WordPress 1 and 2, it didn't give you that option. You just went click and away it went and put it anywhere you want. But anyway, pay attention to this at this point. Write down again your usernames and passwords. the next 4 boxes, you'll need to put some sort of nickname. It can be a Veritech handle if you want. It doesn't really matter what you put in there. Ghost Rider or Tune Up or My Name's Fred or whatever you want to put in there, you can put in there. These 3 boxes here, you can do an entry in, and the blog I described after the setup's done is Russ Falls' site, and he's filled those in, but you don't have to at this point, because once you've installed WordPress, they'll be there. And when you want to go into the admin section, when you've installed WordPress, it's your domain name dot whatever it is /wp-admin, irrespective of the admin username you've used or your admin nickname. That's the link to get into your WordPress blog or site. And then you simply click Finish Installation. It tells you the access to the URL here, and then clicks Finish. Again, this is an important point to check to make sure that it's going to the right spot. And if you click Finish and it doesn't install, then something's gone wrong. But if you don't know your usernames and passwords, I'm sorry, I can't help you. So you click Finish. Once you've done that, you then go back to File Manager and have a look to make sure that everything's set up the way you want it to. So here's the original domain I set up. Here's if I want to put some ebooks in there, which I've done, I've put the Veritex ebooks on that site. I've set up an ebooks folder in there to FTP them there, and there's the 3 sites. So you've got an admin folder, you've got a content folder, which by the way already has an images folder in it. If you want to use that one, sure, you can do that. I sort of tend to set up a separate images file because I can get to it a lot easier in my FTP site. So if you want to put an image or something like that on the blog, you'll need to specify, like here, where the images are. You can put the images wherever you like, but I would put them in a separate folder. They're the standard folders. That's correct, Art. That's the standard folders after you set up is WP admin, WP content, and WP includes, and there's heaps of 10 megabytes of zip data in there, so it's a fairly big site. Oh, sorry, 10 megabytes of data in there, so it's got a lot of stuff that can go wrong in there. But if you want to set up other folders, then you can do that with your file manager as well. As I say, get used to using the file manager. Set up a folder and delete it, and just practice on it. It's good to practice on a subdomain as well, because if anything goes wrong there, well, you can always abandon it even if it's not set up properly, and try it again before you start putting anything on your main domain. Use the subdomain as a practice area for you. Okay, when you hit setup, this is the Russ Falls' site. You notice it's got a title in there, it's got a picture there that's default, it's got a home link and an about link. He's put a bit of a description in here. All that can be done afterwards, but you can, again, like he's done it on the fly as he was building the site, so that's okay. So that's what the site looks like, and you know you've had complete success if you get something that looks like that. There's another, yeah, there's probably a few of them, but depends on what version you're using. One of them, the first version 2 and the early version of 3 just gave you Hello World as the site, didn't give you a picture at all, gave you a blank screen. But don't worry too much about what it gives you to start with, because we're just about to go on and alter that and make other pictures if you wish. And this is the power of WordPress. You know, you can go and put in links, blog links, page links, heaps of stuff. I spoke to a guy the other day who uses 14 different plugins. Don't know why you'd want 14, but I could see why you'd want 3 or 4. But he had 14. I didn't go into why, and he didn't want to tell me, so we left it at that. So here's your WordPress screen now, and you get to that by doing your domain name followed by /WP admin in your browser, and it'll take you to. I'm almost over my cold that I've had for a month, but not quite. seems to be coming back to during our winter over here in Australia. So I tend to get loaded up with this stuff anyway. You type in your username here and your password that you know, and then you can tick the remember me box so that you don't have to remember it next time you come in, and simply hit login. If you lost your password here, it's pretty serious. You have to fix that up first, and you have to delete WordPress because of it, because you can't get your username and password from anybody and you've forgotten it. It's probably encrypted on your site somewhere, but finding it's well, I don't know how to find it. Somebody knows how to find it, tell me, because it can be now that's a good point. D, you can upgrade WordPress. It'll tell you when you go into your, let's log in here and have a look at the next screen. This is a left-hand panel of the screen that you get. There's a lot more stuff on the right of this panel here, but we're only going to look at this one because they're the significant areas. But at the top of this page it'll say, oh, WordPress has been updated, so they've already got a WordPress 3.01. I would suggest that when you go into your okay, you get errors in that area, do you? Okay, if you get errors in that area, you'll have to download it. Point to the download on your own computer, and it'll be in .zip format, and when you click install, it should install it. I've never known it not to install automatically, but it may do that. Is there a one-step remove button anywhere? No, there is not a one-step remove WordPress button. I wish there was. It'd make life a lot easier, but it puts stuff about, yeah, install it, leave it as a zip file D, and it should be fine. But do you want me to look at it later? I can perhaps look at that later for you if you want. No, that's why it's so important to have this stuff, have your usernames and passwords, and don't rush. Check and make sure that it's all right. And again, particularly on the first couple. So the first thing we need to do is add a page, because we're going to, when you set up the basic blog, the first page is a dynamic page, and it's a hello world page, and it'll actually, people post to your site or anything like that, or post to your blog, that's the page that'll be updated. And you may not want the continual update of the first page with different things that you post into your site. So I'm going to go through setting up a static page, setting up a home page that's like the same all the time, and which you can change. You need to install the Snap-in feed plugin, or the multi-feed Snap-in. That's a new one, multi-feed Snap, and you definitely need the all-in-one pack. And if you want a bit of social bookmarking, you can install WP Google Buzz from Aperture.com, and that'll help you improve your traffic flow. If people comment on it, it's not like using pardon me, leaving your file open for people to post stuff, because you get a lot of rubbish posts, particularly if you start using your blogging. I tend not to want that, because it takes a bit of management to delete it. And even though you get comments like, why did you delete my posting, blah blah blah, just ignore all those stuff, because most of the postings are done by engines that do it automatically. They post to hundreds and thousands of blogs around the planet, and they only do it to get link juice to their domain as well. So don't get too upset if you don't want to accept people's pornographic sites or dating sites or money sites or whatever they want. And I generally turn this stuff off, so I'll show you how to do that in a moment. So let's go and add a page. We're going to call the page home, call it what you like, but we're going into, now that we've installed the page called home as a page, we're going to go into settings and set the static page for below, and from your list box you can select the page that you created and just call it home or index or whatever you want to call it, and it'll go in the top of your main page. So you don't need any HTML for this generally. You can just, for your home page, you can just type in some stuff, copy and paste in some stuff. And again, if you use graphics, supply the full path name to where the graphics are being held on your WordPress site. You can't redirect the graphics from another site to WordPress. You've actually got to install the graphics on the WordPress site that you use in the right location, and hence that's why I use something like an images folder, something I can get to pretty quickly. And the next thing you do in settings is go to general, and you can have something like a /, and you may need to write that down. If you ever want to get a copy of a screen when somebody's talking, you simply push the Alt key, and while the Alt key is held down, you hit the print screen key. You open up Paint or WordPad or something like that, and then do Control V, and it'll paste that page into the document that you want to keep. So if there's something really important you see there, oh, that's a good one, Control Alt print screen, paste. People don't know that it's been done. Well, I can see the little red button come up on the left, but and so will others, but I figured that that's what people are doing when I see the red key come up and then disappear again pretty quickly. And this will give you something like the briansmarketing.net /about, rather than something like this, rather than !page _ID = 2. It gives you a tree a lot more structure, and showing people that you know a little bit more than the average bear about WordPress. So then at this point you can go on, and you need to of course click the custom structure and put it in there, and then of course you can go on and do all that Tom's training about postings and setting up the all-in-one SEO and a few things like that. So if you like, that's about it, but let's go one step further and do the same thing on a subdomain. So remember, right back in screen 14.0 we created a subdomain. There's a copy of the screen there. So let's go in now and install WordPress on that. So again, it'll tell you what existing WordPress you have there. You simply click again New Installation, and if you've never attempted it on this subdomain or any subdomain or on the subdomain you've selected, then that's fine. And here's where you select your subdomain. So it's in the list box, so you just select it correctly from the list box. If you simply want to install it into a folder, then you can do it at this point here. You specify a folder, not a subdomain, but just a folder off your main domain. Remember, the folder must be empty and must be available. It won't create the folder for you. Again, your usernames and passwords are the same for what you've already used, and the site description and so on below this can be entered later if you wish. You'll need to again put in your password. I generally make it the same for subdomains as the main domain. You don't have to enter this stuff. You can use your same admin nickname, or just going through the same procedures we did before, so you can see just how easy it is to put it somewhere else. Then you click Install WordPress, and it'll tell you at this point in time where your WordPress is being installed. So again, pay attention to this spot. If you put it in the wrong spot, well, bad luck. You'll have to unput it. So clicking Finish Installation will then allow you to look at your tree, and again you can see in the Train Me folder or Train-Me folder, you'll see the CIG bin. CGI is like a computer graphics interface where some programming work can be done. I'm not a CGI expert, it just creates that folder for you automatically. And then the three default folders that you get, the WordPress admin, WordPress content, and WordPress includes. And if you go and look at your site, of course you can see the site. So now that you put some content in, back up your data, all your page scripts, all your post scripts, all your settings, and of course your WordPress database if you have it, because when you just because you backed up all your data doesn't mean that your MySQL is backed up, and you need to do this as well. Because if anything goes wrong after you have 6 or 7 months of posting and hosting and new pages are added, new content's put in, if anything goes wrong, you're really going to, ouch, what's happened? And you'll know that sinking feeling you get. Some people know it already. What are the scripts? Well, things like your plugin scripts, your settings out of your general and out of any other part of the equation that you've actually put in. Because it can be a bit of a minefield. You go back in there and say, oh, I was there last week. What did I do? Why was I there? What was the purpose of going to this spot? There's such a lot to learn, and it's such a busy site, the WordPress site. Busy in terms of so much you can do there, and committing it to memory is one thing, writing it down is something else. Okay, just under the hour, 10 minutes. Anyone wants a question, they can grab the mic and away they go.